Hello friends, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Miss Ink Stamps video. Today we are going to be using this darling little stamp set that you see here. This is called the Ice Day stamp. It's so cute, has so many cute penguins. We're going to be using the new Feed the Birds stencil. I love that. It's got like little bird feet and some little dots. And then we're also going to be using the Sweater Weather stencil. I love this one as well. So let's jump right into it. I have a piece of watercolor paper that I've cut down to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and I've put the Sweater Weather stencil over the top, and then I'm spritzing a couple different Distress ink sprays. That first one was Weathered Wood, and the second one was Speckled Egg, and then I came back in with a little bit more Weathered Wood. And now I'm just going to heat set that till that is nice and dry so that I can bring in the next stencil, which is the Feed the Bird stencil. I'm going to tack that down with a little bit of tape just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. And I'll flip it over and I'm going to bring in some Distress Oxide. This is the Fossilized Amber, and I'm only going to put that on a little bit of the bottom. I just want it to be nice and subtle, and so you don't see it a whole lot. It's definitely there, but it does bring in a pop of that yellow, which is cute. Kind of makes it look like the little birds are dancing, which will make sense. And then I want to bring in the Weathered Wood Distress Oxide. I am going to just blend this all over the edge. I like how that frames out my piece, and so I typically like to do that when I use sprays. It just frames it up a little bit, makes it, I don't know, neat. Kind of gives it a distressed look, which, you know, we're using Distress Oxide, so why not? And now I want to stamp out my images. So I've pulled out 3 little penguins that I want to use, and I have a strip of watercolor paper, and I have some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. This is a pigment ink. It's perfect for watercoloring. And so I'm just going to stamp all 3 of those little penguins. Typically, if I were going to watercolor, I would use a clear embossing powder over the top of this. But I decided this time, since I'm only using a few colors, that it wouldn't be necessary. So I'm bringing in some Distress Oxides. I wanted to color with those. So I've got that same Weathered Wood, Speckled Egg, and Fossilized Amber. And we're going to color our penguins just with those 3 colors. So I brought in a water brush. And if you have never watercolored with Distress Oxides, I highly suggest you give it a try. They give such a different look. It's like a chalky look. It's so different than regular watercolor, so it's not quite as, I don't want to say vibrant, that's not the word I want to, it's a little bit more matte finish, which is neat. And so I'll just slap down a little bit of color and try to pull that out with some water, and then pick up more color with my water brush. This is a detail water brush, so it's got a smaller brush head to it, and then I'm just going to keep bringing in that color. And you can really add some depth and dimension just using one color, which is all I'm doing here for the outside of the penguin. That Weathered Wood, it's a bluish tinge, but it definitely looks a little bit more gray. So I like how it's gray, but it does have that blue tinge to it. So we'll finish up coloring our cute little penguins who look like they're dancing. And the possibilities with this stamp set are just so fun because there's so many cute little penguins in there. And penguins are just fun to color anyway. I feel like you can do those pretty easily. They're pretty forgiving. Now for their little bellies, I'm going to bring in that Speckled Egg, just add a little bit of a curve so it almost looks like there is, you know, some shadowing going on there. And then I'll blend that out. And then of course for their beaks and their flippers, I'm using that Fossilized Amber. And that's pretty easy to put down too. Once we're all done with that, I am going to go ahead and fussy cut these out just using some little snips that I have. And I'm leaving a nice little white border around each of our little penguins. But these are pretty easy to fussy cut. You know, it doesn't take a lot. And then when all 3 of those are done, we're going to start working on what our card's going to look like. I used a die to cut out a circle, just a circle die of some navy. And I did the same thing with the white, only half of it. And then I freehand cut a slope so it looks like they're on some snow. I'll glue down that little slope to my blue background, and then I'm going to bring in a white gel pen because I want to add snow all over that background. So this could be a little bit time consuming depending on how you do it, but I just make big circles, small ones, you know, big dots, small ones, and add some of them close together. Just try to make it look very random. And then I'm going to glue down my penguins. You could use foam tape, but I plan to add a little bit of interaction to the back of this. So I wanted these to stick down to the front very easily. And so then once all 3 of those little guys are put on there, I need to come up with my sentiment. So I've got some white embossing powder, a piece of that same navy cardstock, and then I brought out the sentiment that I plan to use, and I used a magic powder bag over the navy blue, and then I'm going to stamp down my sentiment on that, and then I'll cover that with that white embossing powder, and then heat set that till that is smooth and melted. And watching embossing powder melt is just so fun. So satisfying. And then I'm going to trim that down with my guillotine trimmer, doing a happy dance for you. Love that. Make it a nice little rectangle. And then I'm going to bring in my base. My base is just some white cardstock that I have. I've cut it down to 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches and scored it at 4.25 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue down my panel to my card base using that same liquid glue that I've been using. And then I do have to do something on the inside. So I'm stamping my sentiment. I'm going to do 2nd and 3rd generation stamping with that. And then stamp out a little penguin as well. And then now I'm going to bring in an action wobbler. They do make bigger ones, but this is the size that I have and it works fine. It just causes it to sag a little if it's sitting upright. But I'm going to peel off the back, stick that to the back of my little penguins. And then I'll peel off that release paper on the back of that. And we'll just stick that right down to the front of our card. And look at that, it wobbles. It's so fun. But I love these because they mail flat. So they're super easy to mail, but then when the recipient pulls it out, they have this fun little interaction with their card. Ah, I love how that turned out. And there you have it. So if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Miss Ink Stamps has going on over on their Facebook page, their blog, and Instagram. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.